Hello friends, in today's video I want to talk about the top 15 classics that I want to read. Preferably this year. I feel like you're either a reader that really hates classics because you were forced to read them in school, or you read them in school and really enjoyed them so you kind of stick with them. I love reading classics. So without further ado, here are the 15 classics that I really want to read. Journey to the Center of the Earth by Jules Verne. This is a classic sci-fi, fantasy, kind of adventure exploration novel. And it follows, I think, 3 or 4 people that venture into, well, the center of the Earth. And they discover many magical and prehistoric things. So, I've seen the movie. The one with Josh Hodgson, I really liked that. I remember watching that a lot when I was younger. So I'm interested to read the book. I've had this book, this beautiful, gorgeous, I mean, it's not the most beautiful classics edition you've ever seen, but I really like this. It's so aesthetically pleasing. But yeah, I've had this for a few years, haven't read it. I tried to read it, but I just wasn't in the reading mood to finish it. So I'm hoping that this year I will read it and love it and finish it. So the next classic is Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. I keep saying this book like literally everywhere. So many people on BookTube have talked about this as a classic, and I never really thought of reading it before now because it really didn't feel like, you know, my kind of reading vibe, but I'm open to reading it. This is about 4 sisters and all the struggles they face while the Civil War is raging and they live in New England. So that's all I really know about it. You know, I've heard about this book so many times, so I want to read it. The next book is Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. I've seen the movie with Keira Knightley. To be honest, the movie's okay. It's not my favorite Keira Knightley movie. It's not my favorite historical fiction movie, but I enjoyed it nonetheless. So I'm kind of curious to see if I actually like the book. I'm kind of worried this is going to be a long and kind of boring book. It's like historical kind of romance thing, so I'm not huge into romance. So we'll see how this goes. The next book I have is Cheri by Colette. This follows the story of a privileged, wealthy young man who is living with an older woman who's like twice his age. He marries a younger woman, and the older woman that he's living with realizes that she is in love with him. So that's kind of the gist of the story from what I can gather. I want to read this because I recently watched Colette, the movie. Kind of want to read this. There's also the one Claudine at school or in school or something like that. I want to order that and read that too. But yeah, those are kind of the 2. I've kind of included them as 2 on this list that I really want to read. Next, we have The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. This is the story of a young man who basically trades his soul for immortality, and the portrait on his wall reflects all of his mortal sins. I've also seen the movie to this. I have a habit of watching the movie before reading the book. I'm quite interested in reading the book because I thought the movie was very interesting, so I'm excited to see how much more interesting the book will actually be. It sounds like a cool book. The next book I want to read is Alice in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll. I haven't read this. I'm not the biggest fan of Alice in Wonderland, but I've never bothered to actually read the classics, and I tend to enjoy children's classics. Like, I've read all of Anne of Green Gables and I absolutely loved them. So maybe I will read Alice in Wonderland and really enjoy it as well. Next we have 1984 by George Orwell. All I know is that this book terrifies the crap out of a lot of people. This takes place in the future in a totalitarian, very bureaucratic society. I'm interested to get my pants scared off. The next one is Treasure Island by Robert Louis Stevenson. I love pirates, so yeah, I really just want to read some like classic pirate novels and classics in general. Like, I'm interested in reading this. Obviously, a boy finds a treasure map, pirates are after the treasure. It's like got all the basic kind of pirate tropes, so I'm all for that. Next we have The Secret Garden by Francis Hodgson Burnette or something like that. I don't know if I'm pronouncing his last name correctly, but this is about a young English girl who was orphaned. So she travels from India, the place where she was orphaned, to England to live with her uncle, and her uncle has this mysterious garden that's under lock and key. Yeah, she basically kind of discovers the mystery of the secret garden. So the next book I want to read is This Side of Paradise by F. Scott Fitzgerald. I'm not 100% sure what this book is about. I've seen that it's like almost a collection of short stories, and it has like a lot of differing plot lines and like poems and stuff, so I'm not sure what this is about. My sister bought it. I have a physical copy of it. I just don't have it right now, but I am interested in reading it, and I don't think it's too big of a book. It's like pretty short. So next we have Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. This seems like such an interesting book. We have a science student who is obsessed with regeneration and I guess reanimation, which basically means having a dead body come alive. I seen, what was it, the Frankenstein Chronicles on Netflix. I watched that and I really enjoyed that show. So I want to read this book and see what the book is all about. I mean, you hear about Frankenstein, you know, all your life, and it's like such a big pop culture thing. I've never read it. I'd love to read it. I mean, it seems pretty cool. Next, we have Far from the Maddening Crowd by Thomas Hardy. Again, I've seen the movie to this, loved the movie, so I'm like, I have to read this book. My only concern is that it's going to be like really romancy and might be super drawn out because it's a long book. So yeah, but I'm still interested in reading it because I really enjoyed the movie, and I'm hoping that like the book will be just as atmospheric as like the movie was. Next, I have Death on the Nile by Agatha Christie. A murder takes place on a boat that's traveling on the river Nile in Egypt, and Hercule Poirot solves the murder. I haven't read an Agatha Christie novel yet. Like, what is wrong with me? I love murder mysteries, and this is like the classic murder mystery, so I have to read it. I have to. So the next classic that I want to read is Picnic at Hanging Rock by Joan. Lindsey, this is a classic Australian, well, classic. I've seen the TV show to this. It was good, but I haven't read the book yet, so I really want to read it. So yeah, basically this is about a bunch of boarding school girls who go on a picnic at a place called Hanging Rock, and they mysteriously vanish and they don't know what happens to them. I'm super excited to read this one. This one seems so cool. And the last classic that I want to read, number 15, is Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. I'm not sure how to pronounce that because it is French. But basically the lead heroine of this novel is swept off by her feet by a widowed man. They get married, she goes to live in his big mansion kind of place, and basically his wife's presence kind of is very palpable. And there's some mystery surrounding that, and it threatens to destroy the marriage. So I've seen this classic hyped up a lot. I haven't really heard of it before I was on BookTube and stuff, so I'm gonna read it. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed this, please be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more. Please be sure to check me out on Instagram, Goodreads, and Twitter. My links will be in the description below, and I hope to see you guys next time. Bye!